I started reading the literature. And I came across the work of Pierre Bourdieu, a French sociologist, who's very well known for his idea of cultural capital. If you have heard this term, cultural capital, you probably heard it in a context in which it was spoken as if it was some abstract ideal that only really, really smart people know about, and it was probably inserted in a sentence with a lot of words that have a lot of syllables. And I find that when I see it discussed in university settings, it's often talked about, his ideas are often talked about as if they are very abstruse, difficult, hard to grasp. This is a lie. I'd like you to be patient with me for the next few minutes, and I'm going to explain to you what these are. And the thing is, you already know this because you live it. Now, here's the part where we work together. While I'm explaining each of these terms, you have a job. Your job is to listen for each of these terms and ask yourself not how it applies to your clients, we'll get to that later, but how it applies to you. As I give you each example, I want you to roll through your mind and say, how does this work in my life? So let's start with cultural capital. Cultural capital is described in a lot of ways, and I put a simple version here, a group of important resources, social class, cultural background, legacies of achievement, that individuals acquire from the families who raise them to adulthood. Sounds complex. Oh no, it's very easy. Let me give you an example from my own life. When I was small, my mother was a graduate student, and she worked in Chicano Lit. She was working on a PhD. She was poor and raising 2 kids, and she had no money to hire an assistant. But she had given birth to 2 of them, and she put us to work immediately. So when I was a kid, she would take us to the library, and she would give us these little slips of paper, because that was way before the computers, right? And we were still using the card catalog. And she would send us off and be like, bring me back these books. So we would obediently go to the stacks, and we would bring her back books, and we would help her. And my mother was born in Costa Rica, in San Jose, Costa Rica, and she was not a native speaker of English. If you've ever tried to write in a language that is not your language of birth, it is extremely difficult. It's very hard. So even though she was well educated and a great speaker of English, she needed help. So she started coming to me when I was 11 years old and saying, can you just read this? Can you look at this? Can you fix it? So at the age of 11, I started fixing my mom's writing. And by the time I was 15, I could make a page sing because I'd done it so many times. When I got divorced, I had a roommate, and my roommate had a very different kind of cultural capital. My roommate Shannon was not raised in a family of middle-class academics. She was raised in a family of cops and firemen. And when the 2 of us would go out as girls on the town, going to a movie or going out to a party, all dressed up, we would drive sometimes a little too fast, and we would get pulled over. And I would tremble in fear. I would tremble in fear. Because, you know, here's this cop, and he's going to give me a ticket. And she was so calm. The cop would come up, I'd be like, hello, officer, what seems to be the problem? And she'd be like, hi there, how you doing? He'd never give her a ticket. Not only did she never get a ticket, I actually saw her get a single cute cop's phone number from being stopped. See, because she was raised in a family of cops, she knew what they were thinking. She knew what they were doing. She would just be really comfortable. She'd start flirting the minute her mouth opened. And sometimes by the end of those little sessions, the cop would be saying, okay, girls, we're going to have a lot of people out on the streets the next few days, so you're going to be good at your driving, right? You're going to stay under the speed limit. And she'd be like, yes, officer. Okay, 2 very, very different kinds of cultural capital. Each giving each of us tremendously useful knowledge. Very different, but very helpful. Each of us got the knowledge that we needed to thrive in our own little social classes, in our own particular situations. Are you doing your job? Are you thinking about how you were raised? The particular skills you got from the people who raised you, the special knowledge that you have, you should be doing your job right now. So the thing about cultural capital is no cultural capital is any better than any other. It's all situational. When you're stopped by a cop, it doesn't matter how glorious your writing is. On the other hand, when Shannon needed to produce a 10-page paper, Where'd she go? I was her woman. Now, it is true that the cultural capital of the highest social classes does provide a particular benefit, because the people who are running our world, if you share their cultural capital, if you can draw them into your social networks, you have a big advantage. So in that way, it's a little better. So now let's think about all the pieces of cultural capital, everything you learned, right? Maybe you were raised in a household where it was working class and your dad could fix anything, or maybe your mom could fix anything. New power tools. You know, you're the guy or the woman who goes out and puts on a new deck in a week. Doesn't pay for anything but materials, right? All of those pieces of cultural capital, all of those little pieces are assembled to become your habitus. It's like an invisible bubble that everyone in this room is wearing. Our bubbles overlap with each other. They push against each other. They're invisible, but they're there. And it is only through these bubbles that we see and interpret the world. We carry our cultural capital with us. That is not what I wanted. My cultural capital does not include technology. For this, I married that man. Okay, so there are two other important things. Social capital. Social capital is often described as the kinds of benefits that come from relationships built on trust and reciprocity, the aid and support that are exchanged by people in the same social network, okay? So in other words, when you draw people into your social network and you have a close relationship or even a distant relationship of respect, if you need help, you can call on them and they will help you. If they need help, they can come to you. And I don't have to tell you how important it is to have a network of people that you can go to help you through your day-to-day lives. How many times have you been saved by someone whom you called on who could do something or get something or talk to someone that you couldn't even begin to address? Probably more than once. So in this case, social capital represents all of the benefits that can come from those kinds of relationships. So I want you to think about this. Are you doing your homework? I want you to think about your social network. Think about your work network. Think about your personal network. For those of you who have large families with lots of people in them who can do lots of things like make technology work for you when you need it, think about all of this. All right? So social capital comes from all of those relationships. And finally, stay with me, there's only one more. There's only one more. Embodied cultural capital. What did we say about cultural capital? We said it was lessons and bits of knowledge and useful things that you get from the people who raise you, from the people who are around you. People literally wear this on their bodies. When you walk into a door, it's only a matter of seconds before everybody in this room has looked at you and unconsciously says, just as that gentleman is right there, let's take a look at him. Come on in. Come on in. Stop. So let's take a quick look at him. Let's look at his embodied cultural capital here. He's wearing a nice shirt, neat, kind of cute, has a nicely cropped hair, cute little glasses. To me, this says middle class, smart, glasses right, attractive, going places. He's got a nice little watch on, right? So this is definitely a middle class guy who's going places and probably has a good level of education. He hasn't taken more than 2 steps. He hasn't opened his mouth. But that's the impression. Thank you so much, brave man. Well done. Well done. Okay. Okay.